tired of being the good girl. I'm tired of being the good girl. Tired of playing nice, of being polite, of swallowing my pain while he strolls through life unscathed. Smiling, carefree, acting like I'm some tiny footnote in his personal story. It's a knot of anger twisted in my stomach. Never untangling. Always there. Burning in the background. No matter what I do, it stays, and part of me hates that it stays. My ex blindsided me by ending our relationship, said he. Didn't want a relationship at all. The standard, it's not you, it's me approach. Except it was more like he didn't want me, specifically. I asked him over and over why. Each time he repeated the same excuse. I just don't want a relationship in general. Then, practically overnight, he turned around and started seeing someone else, like we never shared 2 years, like my heart was never in his hands, like I was never the one he used, day in and day out, for his own whims, with me too blinded by what I thought was love to notice the hollowness behind his words. Looking back, I see the signs I missed, the ones screaming. He doesn't love you. I see how he used me for sex, how he made me feel small whenever I tried to talk about the future. I see him sidestepping any emotional conversation by saying, I don't do relationships, but then jumping into a fresh one as soon as he was done, extracting the last bit of affection from me. If I had any illusions left, they were shattered when he texted me, while happily with his new girlfriend, letting me know he was horny, and wondering if I would come over, as if I should be thrilled to hop back into his bed, any time. He beckoned, as if I didn't matter, except as a convenient release. There's a part of me, probably the larger part, that wants to leave it behind. I don't want my entire life spinning around his existence, especially now that he's gone. I want to breathe, without tasting the bitterness that settles on my tongue. Whenever I think of him, I want to walk away clean, with a sense of dignity, and tell myself, I'm better than this. I don't need to stoop to his level, but oh, how the anger burns, a righteous fury that demands justice for all the times he trampled my feelings underfoot. That part of me can't stand the idea that he's out there, gliding smoothly through his new relationship, never pausing to consider the hurt he left behind. And so I waver. One day I think it's not worth it. I should let it go. The next, my rage resurfaces, and I fantasize about exposing him for the snake he truly is. I still have the texts, the undeniable proof that while claiming he wanted no relationship, he was sending me explicit invites for sex. It would be so easy to forward them to his girlfriend. Watch his little story crumble as she realizes he's a cheating liar. I can see it now. Her phone buzzing, her eyes widening in horror. Maybe she'd feel angry or betrayed. Maybe they'd fight. Maybe he'd taste heartbreak for once. Maybe he'd remember me every time he tried to look her in the eye. He'd remember I'm not the sort of person who can be tossed aside quietly. My shoulders tremble with the urge to do it. A part of me wants him to see how it feels to be humiliated, to have that sense of betrayal stab into his chest. I'm tired of existing in the shadows of his memory. Tired of him rewriting history with me as some clingy ex, a minor plot point. If he wants to forget me so easily, I want to burn myself into his memory, scorch it so that every time he looks at her, he thinks of me, a flicker of regret for what he did, a tinge of guilt that never leaves. But I'm also exhausted by carrying this hatred around. Rage is heavy. It gnaws at my sleep, visits me in the quiet, random hours of the day. A song on the radio stabs my chest with old memories. A random face in the crowd reminds me of him, and I feel my blood pressure spike. I wish I could just purge him from my mind, vacuum out every recollection. We weren't perfect. He was definitely not perfect. And yet I held on to that relationship, gave him my trust, my vulnerability, my love. What I regret isn't the physical intimacy. It's the emotional openness, the way I laid my heart bare for someone who took it for granted. Sometimes, I wonder why the heartbreak lingers. He's not worth it, I tell myself. He's proven his character, or lack thereof. If I humiliate him, what do I gain? Maybe some short-lived satisfaction, the dark, bitter thrill of revenge. But after that, would I really feel better, or would I just be tangled in more mess, exchanging one form of pain for another. My mind swings back and forth, like a pendulum. I read the texts again and see how cold and crude his words were. I remember how he made me feel like an option. That memory feeds the fury. My ex in bed with some new girl, acting like we never shared 2 years, mocking every sacrifice I made. Then a bubble of resentment swells, as I imagine them laughing over dinner, or cuddling on the couch while I sit alone, stewing. Does she even know I exist? Does she know what he's capable of doing? I also recall the times I tried to talk to him about my pain, about feeling taken for granted, about wanting something deeper. He'd brush it off or gaslight me into believing I was overreacting. Now, free from that dynamic, I see how toxic it was, so maybe letting go is the best thing. Cutting that last toxic tie, refusing to let him claim another second of my energy. Yet I catch myself longing to remind him that I exist. Because that's what it boils down to. I don't want to be forgotten like a worn-out toy. I was real, our relationship was real. My love was real. It's cruel that he can sweep me away so simply. The voices in my head whisper conflicting messages. The rational side says, he's not worth it. His new girlfriend might be as clueless as you were. Don't sink to his level. Don't let him drag you further down. The enraged side counters, he deserves consequences for his lies. He lied to you, used you, tossed you aside, then had the nerve to text you for sex. Show him that you're done being walked all over. Show him who you really are. I think of the girlfriend, and what she might feel upon seeing those messages. Shouldn't she know who she's dealing with? Don't I have a moral duty to warn her, to spare her the heartbreak I endured? Or is that just a convenient justification? Perhaps telling her only satisfies my own need for retribution, rather than genuinely protecting her. Maybe it's a mixture of both? Even if I do send them, how do I know she'll believe me? What if she chooses to stay with him, and I'm left looking spiteful or petty? After all, revenge is rarely the tidy, victorious moment we imagine. It's messy, unpredictable. There's no guarantee it'll bring the closure I crave. If anything, it might spark more drama. Furious messages from him, her confusion, my anxiety doubling as I wait for their reaction. The short-lived glee I might feel could dissipate into emptiness, leaving me questioning whether I've made things better or just complicated them more. I realize, too, that maybe I'm holding on to him through my anger. If I let that anger go, I'm truly done. Maybe that final step scares me. If I'm not furious, if I'm not plotting payback, then the book of us is well and truly closed. And there's a certain bleakness to that, like an admission that the person I cared for so deeply never deserved me in the first place. Or maybe it's the realization that I meant so little to him, that he won't even react with real remorse, no matter what I do. Then I recall the relief that sometimes comes with forgiveness, or at least acceptance, not for his sake, God no, but for mine, so that I can move forward. Hatred feels empowering in small doses, but over time it corrodes, wearing me down. There might be more strength in letting go than I realize. Strength in saying, I no longer give a damn about your opinion, or your life, or your relationships. You have no hold on me. That might be the most definitive revenge of all. To be truly free. To banish any illusions that he matters one bit to my well-being. Still, the choice isn't easy. 1 minute, I see the merits of quiet dignity. The next, I'm enraged enough to want his world to crumble. I want to see him squirm. I want him to taste the betrayal, the anxiety, the uncertainty. I don't want him to float away unscathed, smugly convinced he got the better end of the deal. But in my calmer moments, I'm reminded that we can't control how others remember or forget us. We can only shape our own narrative and decide how we move forward. Whether I send those messages or not, the ball will start rolling, and I can't predict where it'll stop. Do I want that kind of chaos in my life, or am I ready to prioritize my peace over petty vengeance? Time keeps passing. Whether I like it or not, I can't change what's been done. Can't reclaim what I lost. The question is, how do I want to live now, tethered to him by anger, or freed by turning my back on him, forging ahead with my own healing? So I stand at a crossroads, texts in hand. One path leads to that sharp thrill of retribution, the image of his lies coming to light. The other is more subdued, asking for patience, and for me to place faith in my own future, rather than in his downfall. Both roads might carry consequences for my psyche, but I have to make a choice. I can't say which route is best for everyone. All I know is that whatever decision I make, I should make it for me. Not to preserve his happiness, or anyone else, not out of fear or shame, but because it's what allows me to walk away with my head high. Perhaps there's no absolute right or wrong. There's only the question of how I want to reclaim my sense of self, and whether I'm ready to start anew, unhindered by the ghosts of what he was, or what we were. In the end, that's all I can do. Decide my own destiny, and let him vanish into the background, or not. The power to act or to let go is mine, and that alone might be the greatest solace.